kid, my parents played a lot of John Lennon in my house. Now, I didn't know much about this shaggy-haired Brit, but he had this lyric, and it spoke to me. And I imagine you could probably finish it. He said, "You may call me a dreamer, but I'm not the only one." Apparently it spoke to you too. A few years ago, I was in my apartment listening to my radio, and there was this riff that came on, opened with a guitar and a soft-spoken voice. And again, this lyric that spoke to me. And I bet you can complete this one also. The artist sang, "When I'm older, I will be stronger. They'll call me freedom, just like a..." Kanan's song became an anthem that went across the country, around the world. So I guess John Lennon was right. He's not the only one.
Kanan is best known for his platinum hit, Waving Flag, a song that was heard around the world at the 2010 FIFA World Cup. It's been a stellar year for this Canadian poet and singer, but it hasn't always been so bright. Born in Somalia, Kanan grew up in Mogadishu, in a neighborhood known as the River of Blood. When civil war broke out, his family fled to Canada, but even in his new home, he witnessed more violence, more killing. Music became his salvation. A hip-hop artist with a social conscience was born. Today, Kanan is using both his name and his fame to spread a message of hope and peace.
Please welcome our Shameless Idealist, Kanan!
Thank you.
As you can tell, they're just a little bit excited.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm happy to be here as well.
Well, Kanan, everyone here loves your music. We've all followed the incredible rise to stardom. I've now known you for a couple of years. I've had the honor, and I consider you a friend. And so with everything going on, I want to ask, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's, you know, like with success comes a lot of commitments, a lot of work, a lot of traveling, you know, and it's been amazing, man. We've done over 86 countries this year alone, and so
wow.
It's been, yeah, so, you know, so yeah, it's, I'm trying to keep it together, and but I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine.
It's got to be good to be home for a bit and to see your boys.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's like one of the real perks of life is family. So I think that's kind of what's making me feel good about being home now.
Well, your own childhood was also filled with music. Your aunt, an incredibly famous singer in Somalia, your grandfather, a poet. What's your earliest childhood memory of music?
We used to take these trips outside of Mogadishu in my aunt's car, and she used to just kind of play us songs from different artists, and she would play Tracy Chapman in the car. I mean, we used to listen to a lot of Somali folk music, and then she introduced me to Tracy Chapman at a very young age, and kind of just felt her spirit. And but there was a lot of that. There was, you know, Bob Marley. Early influence of those trips was all just good taste. My auntie had a good taste in music.
Were there certain words or lyrics that spoke to you?
Well, the problem was, not really a problem, but I didn't speak any English at the time. So everything was kind of just in my own imagination. So no matter what the lyrics said, I kind of had my own idea.
What did you imagine that Marley was singing of? Or?
Well, Marley just has a spirit about him. You don't have to really know all the words. You don't have to really understand the language to feel Marley. And his spirit was kind of, you thought of him as like a freedom fighter, you know, like a revolutionary, and you could tell just something about his music, about his sound, his voice, and his face, everything. And so when I would see a video of his or listen to his songs, I pretty much understood what he was saying without really knowing any of the language that he was speaking in.
And your father, he moved to New York, he became a taxi driver to support the family, and he used to send back hip-hop. So what did you think they were singing about in this music genre?
Yeah, I could just hear gibberish in my head. Like I can't, rap to me was just fantastical. Like, it wasn't, I didn't even know that they were. I was like, how could you say all of that stuff and make sense? Yeah, right. That's kind of what I was thinking. So, but I had some. I was lucky. He sent me Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full album and like Eric B. for President. Those kind of classic albums, and that's what I really checked out first, and got me into hip hop.
Coming up, Kanon remembers his first days in Canada.
She kind of volunteered, and she was kind of this cute girl, and she was like, yeah, I'll share my locker with him. And the whole class went, ooh. I was like, oh, man.
Your past has been very well documented. You held a gun for the first time at 8. You held a live grenade when you were 11, but you also were lucky. You made it out of Somalia in the last commercial flight in 1991. Where do you think you'd be today if you weren't on that plane back then?
Boy, I don't know. I don't know. If I hopefully alive, which is a big. Pretty big if there, but if I was, I think that I'd always have some kind of a dreamer quality, in my life. I'd always, even under tough conditions and circumstances, I never really thought of the world as a hopeless place, and so I think I would be doing something to change the circumstances of what I'm living in.
We have many excited fans who are in the audience here, and they have a few questions for you. So we'd love to invite our first guest.
Whenever we hear about Somalia in the news, it seems like it's always negative press that's coming out. Can you tell us about some of your favorite memories from Somalia?
Thank you for that question. Well, the crazy thing is, with all the violence that we know about in Somalia, which is real, my most prominent memories aren't of the violent years. They're of Somalia's culture, just the collective culture of this country. A lot of people don't know that it's a place known as, the nation of poets, where poetry is primarily the form of communication we use. So if you could imagine textbooks and newspapers combined, that's poetry in Somalia. It informs our everyday life, and it and everything about our history is coded and collected in the memory bank of poetry. And so that was, to me, one of the most memorable things about it.
Did you have a favorite poem as a kid?
Well, the truth is, it's like having a favorite poem is like, in Somalia, it's like having a favorite kind of meal, or even like, it's everything.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like, it's just it's so varied and so widespread that it informs everything. So it's kind of like not outside of the context of life,
You spoke a beautiful description of Somalia, and often we have one image of Africa that comes to mind, carried by the press. And so we posed a question to young people around the world. When they hear the word Africa, what do they think of? And we have their responses.
When I think of Africa, I think of dancing.
When I say Africa, I think of development.
When I think of Africa, I think of malaria.
When I think of Africa, I think of the face of HIV/AIDS.
Black people in Africa like me.
I think of hope.
I think of hope.
I think of so many great things.
When I think of Africa, I think of rebel armies.
I think of Nelson Mandela.
When I think of Africa, I think of pride.
Community.
The Maasai.
Football.
Potential.
When I think of Africa, I think of beauty.
I think about education.
Amazing.
Kenan, when you think of Africa, what comes to mind?
I'll tell you what my favorite answer in there is the guy who said football.
You played as a kid?
Yeah, because that's what I love about that answer is it's very real. It's like there is no consistency other than that. See what I mean? It's like in the continent of Africa, there's not a consistency of poverty. There is not a consistency of disease. There's not a consistency of war. There's consistency of football, though. Kids who play, So that's what I love about that.
And how did going back all those years later as part of the FIFA World Cup tour, performing Waving Flag, reshape the way you look at Africa?
It reshaped it in a huge way. I realized there was no shape to my thoughts about Africa myself. I mean, I'm sometimes seen as the go-to guy in Western media, like ask Kenan about Africa, and it's very natural, I suppose, because I sang about Africa for most of my career. But I realized that I also was completely stereotyping the continent until I visited. I was able to do 22 countries in Africa back to back, and was able to see what it's really like. And so it's hard to say what Africa is. It's hard to say it. If you really visit, because we went from, for example, from Sudan, Eritrea, Djibouti, Ethiopia, to Seychelles, went from Seychelles to Madagascar, to Mauritius, to Swaziland. There is nothing similar about those places. If you go, one is mountainous as the other one is coastal, rich as poor. It's just so varied. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
When you were a kid and you left Somalia, you arrived in Canada, I'm curious about the small things that first struck you. For example, what was your first day like in school?
Well, confusing, because there was just I didn't understand the system of the locker.
The locker, okay.
That was a big deal to me.
You got to explain that story to us.
Well, I didn't bring a locker, and everyone had a locker, and they were like, "Yeah, you got to have a locker to lock your belongings." And I'm like, "But why? Why do I have to like hide my things?" And then they told me that there was this girl that wanted to share her locker with me, and she kind of volunteered, and she was kind of this cute girl, and she was like, "Yeah, I'll share my locker with him," and the whole class went, "Ooh!" I was like, "Oh man, yeah." Yeah, that was kind of one of my
Was this your first Canadian love?
Yeah, it was. I tell you though, I think my memory of Canada, the first Canada experience, was reading the word Mississauga.
Okay.
Yeah, that
is a long word.
It was very intense. I was like, "Is this gonna be the whole thing here? Are people gonna be named Mississauga?"
Yeah.
And then,
after the break, how Kenan pushed through his hardest time.
It's very easy for someone like me to give up and to do that, but I never really. I just decided I wouldn't.
You moved into a neighborhood called Little Mogadishu, and you joined a gang and you were arrested 15 times for...
Yeah, don't do that at home, kids.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm trying to understand, because we've known each other through your charitable work, and that's how I've known you for a number of years, and I can't picture it. Like, who was Kenan at that point?
Yeah, just me, really, but just me without a voice. Imagine my music and everything that you heard in those songs bottled up in one person with no way to express those things. What kind of person would that be? So I really was lucky that music kind of came to my rescue. also the neighborhood that I came up in Toronto is known as, it's Dixon is what it's called, this neighborhood, and there's just a bunch of Somali kids that lived there when I was growing up, and unfortunately the Canadian system didn't understand the Somalis, and nor did they understand our love for socializing, and so instead they called it loitering here.
Okay.
And so that was actually a charge. You know, you could get trespassed from hanging out by the courtyard of the buildings that we lived in. And so when 20 of us hang out in those courtyards, police cars used to pull in and be like, we came last week and we said you were trespassed from this area, so you're going to jail. So just haul us in. And so it was a very difficult and confusing time when we first came.
So police tossed you in jail. It could have been so easy for people just to give up on you. Who didn't give up on you?
My mother. Yeah. Yeah. She doesn't know how to give up, that woman. She's amazing. Yeah, my mother, and I think one of the most important things was I didn't give up on myself either. You know, I just kind of I was like, yeah, these are conditions, these are environmental circumstances, these are issues of my own soul, but I'm not gonna let those things kind of just define me and define the rest of my life. I just thought, well, all my friends are getting killed or going to prison, and I just feel different about myself. I feel like I shouldn't go out this way, so I'm gonna do something else.
Was there a moment when you said, this is not gonna be my life?
Yeah, it was sad. It was like I had a few friends die in the same week, unfortunately. Couple of them were in a police car chase, and the car crashed and they died. And these were like really close friends of mine. And then I got a call from prison from one of my friends who just called me to say hi. And then 2 days later, he got killed in prison. And so that was the wake-up call for me. I was like, man, you know. And this is like kids that were like really close to me. They were considered my right hand, you know, very tight-knit crew, and all of them were kind of going one by one, suicides, everything. 3 of them committed suicide. So I saw myself at some point alone, like left alone with all my friends and the tragic circumstances. And this was even more than that happened to me in Mogadishu, in Somalia. And
or in Canada.
Yeah. So at that point, I had 2 choices. It was either to go the way they did or to do what I'm doing now.
Kenan, you're surrounded by young people. Now, a lot of them come from the same neighborhoods where you grew up in. If you could turn back time and give your 17-year-old self advice, what would you say to him?
It's possible. It's possible to change things. The truth is that the people who have the quality to change things, not just about the world, but about their environment and themselves, and are those people who have a certain internal air about them. They kind of know it. They believe it, and it's there, and you feel something, you know, and you have to nurture that, you know. You can't let other people's voices silence that. You could imagine, for me personally, it can't have been that easy to come out of where we come out of in Somalia, to live in Canada the way we did, to have your friends as a teenager get killed or commit suicides, and I'm talking like 8 of my closest friends. So at that point, what do? You know, it's very easy for someone like me to give up and to do that. But I just decided I wouldn't.
Why not? Like, what in you didn't let you give up?
Just dreams, just the vision for a better idea of self, better idea of the world, better idea of the future. And another thing that helped was this is not like some message thing, but just from me personally, I just never really turned to drugs or alcohol or anything. To this day, I've never ever even tried alcohol or any form of drug or so.
Up next, Kanan talks about the song The World Embrace.
Sometimes I'm just like, I sit back and I'm like, wow, like I wrote that.
We can do anything. We can be anyone.
You haven't been afraid to talk about the battles that you faced in life. You mentioned the loss of friends, suicides, arrests. You've also spoken about your own battles with depression, and that's such a huge issue for so many young people. What would you say to someone who's dealing with those dark times in their life?
Yeah, well, it's real, that stuff, and you're not crazy. But the amazing thing about it is it passes. You have to know that it passes. And it's just the hardest thing to know when you're actually in the middle of it, is to envision a future where you don't have to, where you're not really dealing with that. And it might be that something that stays with you for a very long time. I mean, I haven't completely gotten past all of that, but you begin to grow through your dark days, and they are really the source of your days to come. They are really why you will have light, is because you go through darkness. And so I would say just kind of keep that in mind, you know. You can get through that stuff. It's life.
Through that darkness, as you describe it, into an extraordinary light. Your song, Waving Flag, became the theme that we saw at the FIFA World Cup, but also for young artists for Haiti. And I was fortunate to be with you and the legendary producer, Bob Ezrin, when he and the talent across the nation took your song and breathed it and spread it and made it not only your song, but the nation's song. What was that experience like for you?
Well, you remember that day I just sat in the studio in a little corner.
Yeah, I do.
And just kind of like sat in a corner on a couch and just watched everyone interacting and doing what they're doing, and just kind of like, I was amazed at what was going on more than anything. I was inspired, but it was surreal a little bit, you know, because it's great. It's just great that it was all these artists that I like personally, fresh, young, and old alike, everybody doing just amazing things. Bob Ezrin is like legendary, you know, and so I was in awe, so I just kind of sat back and watched it all.
I had the honor to be there, and it was this incredible moment where all the greatest talents of our nation were just honored to sing your song. And I look at that, and I felt so proud in that moment.
Yeah.
Just even to know you.
Yeah, man, thank you. Yeah, it's like the crazy things that come to my mind. Sometimes I'm just like, I sit back and I'm like, wow, like I wrote that, you know, like it's like all these people are reacting to something that in the solitude of the corners of my life and alone, I wrote a few little words, and then they sing it in Argentina and in Russia. So it's like, yeah, this stuff is insane, but it's because it's insane that you should think it's possible, you know. Yeah.
Well, everyone here loves the song, and absolutely. You've helped Haiti, but quietly in the corners, you and I have spoken in the past about your own desire to set up a foundation and to reach out more to Somalia. How do you think you can have the greatest impact in your home country?
Yeah, that's a very complicated one, because Somalia is not a place that would be susceptible to the traditional concept of charity or anything like that. even in the most dire situations, they're very dignified, proud people. So they don't really like handouts. They don't accept those things, and so it's a different angle that Somalia has to be approached, and mostly I think it's conflict resolution, and before conflict resolution, it's cultural, kind of a cultural shift. So I've been thinking a lot about how to have a cultural impact in the country, and that's still just kind of ongoing thoughts and stuff. It's one thing to just kind of be like, well, this is what's happening today, fix that. But if you don't give people the tools to fix the root of an issue, the surface of the issue can't be resolved, you know.
By any definition, you've achieved massive success. But what does success mean to you? How do you define it?
Well, I don't feel successful in the way that I define it.
How do you define it?
I define it. My success is often connected to a communal success, you know, and I'm kind of a long way from that. It's like, if I was to be successful, Somalia would be at peace. So.
We welcomed not only questions from the audience, but we also welcomed questions from the world. A young woman from Africa, East Africa, submitted the following question for you.
Hi, Mr. K9. My name is Caitlin. I just came back from Kenya. I was wondering if peace could be possible in Africa.
Oh, she's so cute. Yeah, it's possible. It's already there. It's just some places that have a hard time at the moment. My country being one of them. There's a lot of issues in different places in the continent, but we can't say that we can't ask you know, those kind of questions about a place that already has it. The source of it is peace. This place, the source, it's in original intent, and this place that's created all of mankind is, its original creation is peace. So it is peace in a sense.
Coming up, Kenan shares the story behind the song Fatima.
It took me a lot of years to come to a place where I could actually write the memory of her life, but in a beautiful way.
We can do anything. We can be anyone. Just close your eyes.
You talk about not yet feeling fully successful and how it's a communal success. Any father would say one of their greatest successes is their kids. Do your kids understand what you do in this whirlwind? How do they describe what you do to their friends?
Well, I have two kids, and my 5-year-old, he's like, at first I think he thought everybody's dad does this. That's kind of like what everybody does. And but now I think he's like become a little bit of a show off. He knows how to use it. So he'd be like, "Do you know my dad?" Right?
At 5?
Yeah, he's like, yeah. He sings Waving Flag, you know? So it's like
he says it to people in the supermarket, or like he says it to everyone?
I think he tapped, he was with his mother, and he tapped a man in the shoulder, like on a streetcar. And the man was listening to his headphones, and he was like, "What are you listening to?" My son is a bit strange in how grown up he talks. Like, he's like, "What are you listening to?" And he says, "Oh, just some music." And he says, "Well, do you know my dad?" And his mother was so embarrassed. She was just like, "Oh, no, please don't." Yeah.
When you go home after a long tour, like any father, imagine your kids want you to sing to them. What do you sing to your own kids?
They sing to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do they sing to you?
Just songs. They like Fatima. So they sing Fatima to me, or then they sing like Chris Brown songs or something like that. Yeah, they like a few of my songs, but they usually sing other people's songs to me.
Can you tell us the story about the song Fatima?
Yeah, Fatima is a true story about a girl that I knew when I was younger. I was about 12, and she was like the same age, and we were very close, like kind of like best friends sort of situation. And she lived in the neighborhood that I lived in. She was just very beautiful, and she kind of like spoke all these languages. I thought she was an alien. Because she spoke English and Arabic and Swahili, and I was like, "What? You're from here, like I am. How you doing that?" And so one day she wrote me a letter, and she said, "Since you're going," at the time we weren't coming to Canada. Coming to Canada was like a blessed accident, but we were headed to New York, which was my first home from after Somalia. And so she said, "You're going to New York, so I wrote you a letter in English, and it should inspire you to learn the language sooner so you know what I was trying to say." And so I took the letter, and then unfortunately, sadly, 3 days after our plane took off, she was shot. And so that's the song. And it took me a lot of years to come to a place where I could actually write the memory of her life, but in a beautiful way. A lot of people, when they hear the song, think it's just a love song, and that's how I want it to be, a love song.
Kenan, in the Somali language, your name means traveler. What's next for you?
Wow. Man, I wish it didn't mean traveler right now. I wish it meant sit your butt down in Toronto for a second. I got a Canadian tour that I'm on right now, and then start a U.S. tour, and then I'm gonna start writing a new album.
Where do you think this life journey will carry you?
I hope somewhere good. I hope a place where I have some internal peace. I'm really all about the little things. I want to just kind of do little things. Like, it's gonna sound crazy, but I want to like live in a farm one day. I do. And do things with my hands, plant things and stuff like that, and kind of just like be near the water or something. I'm really, by nature, a very lazy person. So
I like to think of you as a peaceful person.
That's right. Thank you. Peace is a good word for that. I just want to kind of just be in that environment, in like a chill environment one day, not like in a major city where I am always at, and just kind of continue to create whatever it is.
Well, Kenan, thank you so much for sharing with all of us your passion, your music, your story. And coming up next, we'll have the honor to hear him sing the very song he was just talking about, Fatima. Of international success through anthems like Waving Flag. And for the Somali-born poet, music and storytelling is his life. Performing a special song for us here today, Kenan with Fatima.
To the morning, taste and devour. We
rise early, pace up the hour. Streets is bustling, hustling, they harder. You can't have the sweet with no sour. Spices, herbs, and sweet scent of flower. She came out precisely the hour. Clouds disappear, the sun shows the power. No chance of a probable shower. I fell in love with my neighbor's daughter. I wanted to protect and support her. Never mind, I'm just 12 and a quarter. I had dreams beyond our border. Is it true when they say all you need is just love? Is it true? What about those who have loved, only to find that it's taken away? And why do they say that the children have rights to be free? To be free. What about those who I've known, whose memory still lives inside of me? Fatima, what did the young man say before he stole you away on that fateful day? Fatima, Fatima, did he know your name or the plans we made to go to New York City? Fatima, and after school we study the lessons. I ask God to slow down the seconds. He does the opposite, that's what I'm guessing. I better chill and count my own blessings. What is the matter? How come you ain't come up the ladder so we can be like there's no tomorrow? Damn, you gon' make me wait till tomorrow. She spoke Arabic and Swahili. She'd say Bendo Anta Habibi. You so bright, you shine like my TV. Then one day she never came to meet me. Is it true when they say all you need is just love? Is it true? What about those who have loved, only to find that it's taken away? And why do they say that the children have rights to be free? To be free. What about those who I've known, whose memory still lives inside of me? Fatima, what did the young man say before he stole you away on that fateful day? Fatima, Fatima, did he know your name or the plans we made to go to New York City? Fatima, if beauty was in the eyes of a beholder, how come everyone hushed when she walked by? How come girls would love just to scold her? How come the angel wanted to hold her? Fatima, Fatima, I'm in America. I make rhymes and I make them delicate. You would've liked the parks in Connecticut. You would've said I'm working too hard again. Damn you, shooter, damn you, the building whose walls hid the blood she was spilling. Damn you, country so good at killing. Damn you, feeling for persevering. Is it true when they say all you need is just love? Is it true? What about those who have loved, only to find that it's taken away? And why do they say that the children have rights to be free? To be free. What about those who I've known, whose memory still lives inside of me? Fatima, what did the gunman say before he took you away on that fateful day? Fatima, Fatima, did he know your name or the plans we made to go to New York City? Fatima, what did the young man say before he stole you away on that fateful day? Fatima, Fatima, did he know your name or the plans we made to go to New York City? Fatima.
Our shameless idealist came on!